Part 40. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoya 11U. Chapter 393. Just leave the people in the house to Su's father, Su's mother, and Wei Fukang, and Su Qingnao will ignore them. Read. 200 soldiers were still waiting to transport their weapons and head north. Lu Bachan is still waiting to use it, so he can't delay. Su Qingyu then went to the weapons room from time to time to take a look, urging them to speed up the progress and produce the quantity Lu Bachan wanted first. After telling him what to do here, he went to the market town. I held a meeting with dozens of village owners to review their work. Now that the winter wheat has been harvested and the early rice has been planted, there is not much work in the fields. However, the spring tea picking is not over yet, and each village has a lot of things to be busy with. Previously, Su Qingyu and his people used caves to grow mushrooms and bamboo fungus in the forest. Now every village is following suit. Moreover, it is also the season for planting melons and beans in various villages, and none of the hard-working mountain people is idle and grinding their teeth. Even if the planting season is over, I will go to the mountains to pick up wild products, find herbs, and pick wild fruits, so there is no time to relax. In the past few years, the village has been led by Su Qingyu and has been full of energy. Your pockets are bulging, your life is getting better, your life is happy, others are living a prosperous life, but you can't compare to it, it's a shame. Almost no lazy people were seen. Each village owner now performs his or her own duties, and there is also a rotating management team. When Su Qingyu is not around, the management team can run things smoothly in the joint village. Su Qingyu can also put down her hands. Now that every village has become rich, the masters of every village have straight backs and walk with wind. Whenever there is a happy event in the village, they are willing to hold a banquet, and the whole village is lively and lively. Su Qingyu heard a lot at the meeting. After the meeting, the leader of Zongjai also stopped Su Qingyu. On the 15th day of next month, my son will get married. I hope the president will bring his family to support him. Su Qingyu looked at the red-faced Zongjai master and congratulated him happily. Okay, I will definitely come. You don't have to worry about no one spending money for you in the future, right? There will be many grandchildren in the future. Give you a hug. The leader of Zongjai grinned happily and refused to admit it. Hey, how old is he? How old are you? Just early 40s. Men, you can have a baby in your 70s or 80s. Are you still worried that Batang can't have children? Hee, I'm not worried. Zhone village master was teased by other village masters, and he felt happy and had a smile on his face. After a few days, hundreds of family members were settled, and fields were allocated to them. Some took up hoes to take care of the fields, some went to work in Su Qingnao's various workshops, some wandered around the market town preparing to do some small business, and some usually went to the mountains to pick tea and wild products, including family members. I quickly adapted and blended into the mountains. The weapons Lu Bachan wanted were also produced in the iron room, so Su Qingyu sent 200 soldiers to leave and go north. Soon Su Qingyu received another letter from Painian's men, saying that dozens of people following Su Qingyu had also been arranged. Dozens of people who originally followed the team arrived in Renzhou and begged Su Qingyu to take them in. Su Qingyu thought for a while and asked someone to take them to Renzhou. It's not that they can't be placed in the mountains, but there are more people in the mountains now, and safety issues are still the first priority. So he wrote a letter asking Painian to help with the arrangements. Painian is now a useful person under Ma Mingwen and is no longer in Renzhou. However, his former subordinate is now in charge of Renzhou, so it is quite convenient to ask him to help find a village for resettlement. Seeing that this matter was resolved, Su Qingyu stopped taking care of it. When I got home from work that day, I saw Dabao and Xiaobao playing with pear blossoms and green dates in front of a pool of white soil, adding water to keep them alive and pinching them. Su Qinjiao's blood suddenly surged. How do you take out the things that mom put in the library to play with? He rushed over. When Dabeo and Xiaobeo heard her voice, they were about to pounce over, but stopped when they saw Sukingyu's sullen face and looked at her sticky hands, which were all dirty. Mom, Dabeo called her and lowered his head as if he had done something wrong. Mom, why did you bring back a cart of soil? The soil is still so white. Xiaobeo has never seen it before. Xiaobeo was not afraid when she saw her stern face, and pestered her to ask questions. Liwa and King Zhao were frightened. They hung their heads and stood there in fear. Seeing that the two children were scared, Sukingyu also felt that her tone was a bit harsh. He glared at Xiaobeo. Did you go to the warehouse and take it out? Xiaobeo also nodded. I asked Grandma, and Grandma said it was soil. Xiaobeo had never seen white soil, so he filled a basin and played with it. Mom, this soil is sticky with water and can be pinched. It's fun. She had worked so hard to transport this unlucky child all the way from Tiantai Yongjia. She had been too busy these days and had no time to test it, so she took it out to play with. So why should we have Xiu Mu? This energetic child should study literature and martial arts every day. Seeing Sukingyu trying her luck on several children, Su's mother hurriedly ran out. Tell the children carefully, why are you scaring them? I haven't asked you yet, why are you bringing a cart of soil back? I'm useful. Mom, don't let Xiaobeo play with it anymore. I'm useful for these dirts. Okay, the warehouse is usually locked. Today I went in to get something, and Xiaobeo saw it. I watched you for several days without saying a word, thinking it was nothing important. Sister, what do you want to use that soil for? Can you make money? Qing Xing surrounded her with bright eyes. This child, now that he has learned to read ledgers, only sees money, and wants to exchange everything he sees for money. Did I miss your allowance? Ah. No, I'm just wondering what this is. Sister, if you work hard to transport it back, it must be of great use. Otherwise, why would you transport it all the way back, right? Sukingyu glared at her and ignored her. Seeing that Liwa and King Zhao were scared, he comforted them with a few words and then let them play with Dabeo and Xiaobeo. Mother Su greeted them and left. Seeing that the children were gone, Sukingyu asked Qing Xing beside her, where are the others? Dad took them to build a house. Aunt Lu and Ruyi took Sister Xiaohe and the others up the mountain to pick tea. Where's Sister? Sister went to the sauce room. Where's Ning Ning? Ning Ning is sleeping in the house. My mother is watching, don't worry. Sister, what is that soil used for? Qing Xing refused to give up, thinking about the few sacks of white and colorful soil, and felt that it must be of great use and might be very valuable. They could not stop asking questions around Sukingyu. Sukingyu glanced at her. Do you know Guanyin soil? I know. I heard people say that when you can't survive, you can dig up Guanyin soil and eat it to survive. That's Guanyin soil. Ah. Those sacks of white flowered soil are Guanyin soil? Her sister dug more than a dozen sacks of Guanyin soil and brought it all the way back. What was she doing? Are you afraid that your family will have nothing to eat? Sister, there is still money at home, and there is a lot of food hidden in the cave. You don't want to eat Guanyin soil, do you? Is there going to be a war in the south too? When Sukingyu saw her look like this, she knew she was wrong and hit her on the forehead. Just as he was about to speak, Xiaobeo ran over. Mom, what is Guanyin soil? The child had sharp ears and was thinking about it. He lay at the door and listened for a long time, then ran over again. Dabeo also followed him. He had never heard of Guanyin soil, nor had he seen such white soil. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 394. Sukingnao saw that his two sons were very curious about knowledge, so he took them and popularized Guanyin Tu to them in simple and easy to understand words. Mother Nature created humans, but she was afraid that her children would starve to death, so she left many treasures for them. For example, she was afraid that we would starve, so she left us various seeds so that we can grow rice, wheat, and soybeans. Can be used to fill your stomach. Another example is that we are afraid that we will have no money to spend, so we have buried various mineral deposits of gold, silver, copper, and iron underground. This guanyin soil is also a kind of mineral deposit buried by Mother Nature. Can you also refine gold and iron tools? Dabao's eyes were burning. Can it also be used as money? Xiaobao's eyes widened. This little money addict. Everything Mother Nature leaves to her children is useful. Smart children can turn it into something useful, but stupid children can't see it and just regard it as useless. You are smart a child or a stupid child. My brother and I are both smart children, Dabao said loudly. After speaking, he asked again, Mom, what can this guanyin soil be used for? This kid. Dabao saw that Qingxin had just said the name of the soil, so he asked her, does my aunt know it? Qingxin looked at the guanyin soil in front of her and nodded to Dabao and Xiaobao. People who have no food can dig up the guanyin soil and eat it to survive. Ah, is this white soil for eating? Then Xiaobao should try it too. As he said this, he would scoop it up with his hands and put it into his mouth. Suqingyu quickly stopped him. Mother. Mom hasn't finished talking to you yet, so she's worried. Suqingyu glared at him. Brother, don't eat randomly. This is dirt. Dabao also pulled him. It's so hairy. After Suqingyu finished speaking, she saw Xiaobao grinning flatteringly at her and scratched his nose again. He said to his two sons, during a great disaster, when there is no harvest in the fields and the people have nothing to eat, they will dig up this guanyin soil to eat. This soil can satisfy hunger, and you will not die if you eat a little. But if you eat too much, your stomach will be damaged. It will get bigger and bigger, and eventually it will die. Ah, why? Xiaobao trembled with fright and touched his belly in fear. He always eats full. Will Xiaobao also burst his stomach? Then you will never see your mother again? No. Terrible. He hurriedly threw himself into Suqingyu's arms. Mom, Xiaobao will never eat more. Just eat a little bit next time. Suqingyu knew at a glance that he was thinking wrong again, and she couldn't laugh or cry. Dabao also touched his belly, puzzled. Dabao knows why we eat every day, but our belly is only so big and we can't fill it up. How can we still live well? Dabao blinked. No one had ever discussed this kind of issue with him. The tutors would only ask him about his understanding of the scriptures. Mom, is it because we have to go out every day and can't leave anything in our stomachs, so we eat every day and our stomachs won't burst? Dabao likes to discuss these issues with his mother. Xiaobao clapped his hands when he heard this. Yes, Xiaobao also knows it, because we have to go to the toilet every day and poop out all the food we eat, so our stomachs will not be burst. After saying that, he looked like he was waiting for his mother to praise him, and he was extremely proud. Suqingyu stroked her forehead. One insisted on saying gong, and the other insisted on saying going to the toilet. Yes, it's because everything we eat every day will be absorbed by the body. The good things will stay in the body and make the little ones and big babies grow taller and stronger. The bad things will be excreted and they will not stay there forever. If you keep it in your stomach won't burst. Suqingyu couldn't teach them the 4 books and 5 classics, but sometimes she would tell them some things about physical geography. For example, both children are interested in natural phenomena and physical phenomena. Suqingyu will answer children's various doubts in simple and easy to understand language. Now she talks to her children about absorption and nutrition, and both children can understand it. What we eat can be absorbed by the human body and can be excreted normally, but guanyin soil cannot be absorbed by the human body. It has no nutrients and cannot be excreted. If you eat too much, it will accumulate in the stomach. The more it accumulates, the more it will accumulate in the stomach. It's as big as a drum, as big as my aunt's pregnant Ning Ning at that time, and if it can't be discharged, it will burst to death. Xiaobao blinked, then why do they still eat? Xiaobao didn't understand and asked persistently. But Dating understood and nodded towards Su Qingyu. Because if you don't have anything to eat, you will starve to death, but Guanyin oil can fill your stomach, so you won't be hungry if you eat it, Su Qingyu explained to Xiaobao. If you don't eat, you will die. If you eat too much, you will die. Why are you still eating? If you die later, you will die. Xiaobao had no doubts on his face. He was going to die, so why should he eat? This kid. He is too thirsty for knowledge and too persistent. I wonder if this could drive his own mother crazy. If you die a day later, you can live an extra day. This is a great treasure. But if you die too late and die too early, you will always die. This is Xiaobao. Su Qingyu discovered that her two sons had completely different thinking patterns. Just like a plate of fruit, there are fresh ones and not so fresh ones. One kind of person eats the less fresh ones first, then the fresh ones, so that all the fruits can be eaten. The other kind of people eat fresh food first and then eat stale food. If you don't eat fresh food, why eat stale food? The first kind of people think that it is not wasteful, and the second kind of people think that they will always eat stale food. Isn't that stupid? Su Qingyu looked at her two sons and they were still arguing. One said that one more day to live is a day, and the other said that dying sooner or later would mean death. Qingxing watched the two nephews arguing and chattering, and she also had a headache. Asked Su Qingyu, "Sister, I can't eat this Guanyin oil, why did you bring it back? Do you know that there is a kind of white porcelain that is as white as jade, as bright as a mirror, as thin as paper, and as loud as the sound of silence?" "Mom, I know. Xingqiu produces white porcelain. Every year, many gifts are brought to the palace." "How do you know?" Qingxing saw Dabao speaking and looked at him. Dabao realized that he had said the wrong thing, and his mother said that he could not talk about the past anymore. He glanced at Su Qingyu quickly, then lowered his head and twisted the corners of his clothes with his hands. Su Qingyu knocked Qingxing, "Of course your nephew is smart. Who doesn't know about the big official kills, among which Xingqiu produces white porcelain? Why didn't I know?" "Because auntie, you are stupid," Xiaobao said to help his brother. "Does Xiaobao know?" "Brother told me, Xiaobao knows now." "Little slicker." Qingxing leaned over and shaved his face. Not to be outdone, Xiaobao rushed over to scratch her, and the two of them burst into laughter. Dabao breathed a sigh of relief quietly and glanced at Su Qingyu. Su Qingyu rubbed his head and smiled at him. "Mom, do you also want to make porcelain?" "Dabao, do you think Mom can make porcelain?" Dabao nodded, "As long as Mother wants to do it, she can definitely do it. Porcelain is valuable and can be sold for a lot of money. Only porcelain with good craftsmanship is valuable. We don't have talents in this field now, so we have to look for it slowly. But the main reason why my mother brought it back is not to make porcelain." "Sister, what do you want to do?" "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhjiaoye 11U. Chapter 395. Su Qingyu saw Qingxing looking at her with curiosity on her face, so she teased her, "Take it back and make you beautiful so that you can marry a good husband in the future." "Ah. Sister. How old am I? 11 or 12, it's not too young anymore. It's time to start looking for it." "Sister. I don't want it. I'm staying at home well and living a comfortable life. Why should I marry someone else and serve someone else's family?" "Tisk, Tisk, if my mother hears your thoughts, I'm afraid she won't want to beat you up. I'll tell grandma soon. Tell me, aunt, you don't want to get married, you just want to stay at home. Xiaobao made a face at her. Ching Xin tried to pinch his little face, but he swooped and hid behind his mother. He showed his head and stuck out his tongue towards Ching Xin. The two stuck out their tongues and made faces at each other, a pair of childish ghosts. Mom, this white soil can really make people beautiful, Dabao asked. Suqingyu touched Dabao's head, which was very comforting. Those two are only good at twisting things. Only this kid can grasp the key points of other people's words. Sister, this Guanyin soil can make people beautiful, Ching Xin looked unbelieving. Suqingyu nodded, okay. It also has a name, kaolin clay. Kaolin is a non-metallic mineral that has many uses. It can be used in coatings, porcelain, paper making, medicine, in many places. Suqingyu saw the kaolin deposit in Yongjia, Tiantai, and also saw its many benefits. Purpose, so I moved some of it back. To make porcelain, she currently does not have the relevant technical talents. But making cosmetics, she wanted to give it a try. I used to use it every now and then. Kaolin clay, volcanic mud, and glacial mud are all the main materials for making mud films. And the various mud films with this effect and that effect are nothing more than various kinds of mud, sea mud, river mud, and mineral mud. The main material of many mud masks is kaolin clay. Kaolin has strong adhesion and adsorption properties. Made into a mud mask, it can balance oil, deep cleanse, remove acne and blackheads. Suqingyu used to use it 2 to 3 times a week. She bought all kinds of mud masks, most of which were made of kaolin clay. During the Tang dynasty, people discovered the effectiveness of kaolin clay and offered it to the palace. Suqingyu didn't pay much attention to her face since she arrived here. But it's one thing not to discover kaolin clay, but to remain indifferent after discovering it is not her style. Suqingyu talked about it, making Ching Xin unable to sit still. When Dabao and Xiaobao heard that there was such an interesting thing, they also wanted to see if their aunt could become beautiful. Ching Xin immediately ran to prepare various things. As soon as Ching Xin ran, Dabao and Xiaobao also ran away. They also wanted to prepare things. Next, Suqingyu and Ching Xin tried various things, and Dabao and Xiaobao also followed and made trouble, claiming to be helping. The two sisters each took a pounding bowl and poured some kaolin into it, crushing and smashing it in various ways, intending to make its particles finer. Dabao and Xiaobao also kept knocking and were sweating from exhaustion. Until it's very fine, I get cow's milk, honey, and camellia oil, pour it in different proportions, and stir. It's a pity that there is no essential oil. If you don't put a drop or two in it, it should be fragrant. Make it into a paste. Two sisters, you look at me and I look at you. Go wash your face and I'll apply a layer of it on you. Sister, come with me. Suqingyu looked at the sticky substance in the wooden bowl and felt a little disgusted. Don't know how effective it will be. Ching Xin, this damn girl, doesn't want to be a guinea pig. Mom, let me try it for you. You apply it on Xiaobao's face. Mom, Dabao will try it for you too. The two sons looked up and competed to be the guinea pigs. Suqingyu kissed them one by one, and her son was still cute. Then I'll do it too. Ching Xin also took the risk. So you apply it on my face, and I'll apply it on your face. 4 faces covered with a thick layer of white dough lay together under the eaves, blowing in the wind. I was shocked when the pear blossoms and green dates came out. Don't be afraid, Mother Su quickly hugged the 2 children in her arms. After she saw clearly, she suppressed her pounding heart and cursed, "What kind of monster are you doing in broad daylight? Lying down. It's scary there. I'm just lying here in broad daylight. If it's night, Mother, You still have to scare me. Ching Xing saw that her mother was frightened. She only found it funny, but she didn't dare to laugh, for fear that her mother would hit her and make her face paralyzed. He said the same thing. Grandma, Grandma, if Xiaobao doesn't come out at night, it will scare people. Dabao is not scary either. Mother Su didn't know what to say. He shook his head, took the two children over, stared at the two adults and asked, "What are you doing? Look at this application, only the eyes and lips are exposed. I don't know what it is, but I dare to apply it on my face casually. Grandma, this is something that can make my aunt beautiful. If she becomes beautiful, she will be able to find a good family in the future." Ah, what are these words? Ching Xing, you're not ugly at all, are you? In the past few years in the mountains, she had eaten well and lived well, felt happy both physically and mentally, and was well raised. Her skin was rosy and fair, just like the official lady she saw at her daughter-in-law's house. How ugly? Auntie is not ugly. Mom said she is something that can make her more beautiful. King Zhao and Liwa each held a bowl of snacks. They looked at Su Qingyu and Ching Xing and didn't dare to go over. The two children were still a little scared. Su Qingnao moved to Dabao and Xiaobao and said, "Brother, you guys eat." After taking the candy twists, he put it into Dabao and Xiaobao's mouths. Dabao pursed his lips. Xiaobao glanced at their bowls and swallowed. "It smells so good, but we can't eat it now. We will eat it after we wash our faces." "Sister, you can eat it first." "Xiaobao, King Zhao is not my sister," Ching Xing corrected him. "Huh, that's my sister." Xiaobao imitated his elder brother and pursed his lips. He glanced at his mother again, crossed his hands, and closed his eyes. "Just a sister, just a sister." Snored. After laying down a stick of incense, the four of them went to wash their faces. "Sister, it feels really smooth and tender to the touch." Ching Xing was a little surprised. Su Qingyu wiped her face, went back home and looked in the mirror. It worked. The effect is still very obvious. All the blackheads and oil have been absorbed, leaving my face feeling refreshed. When she left the room, Ching Xing came over and said excitedly, "Sister, this Guanyin oil can really wash your face." "Well, it can take away the dirt on the face and clean the skin. Once the skin is clean, it will naturally become white, tender, and flawless." "Mother, has Xiaobao become more beautiful?" Xiaobao hugged her thigh. Although Dabao didn't ask, he raised his head and looked at his mother. He also wanted to help her do something. Su Qingyu touched the white and tender little faces of her two sons. They were so smooth that they could pinch water. It's like peeled eggs. "Come on, mother, take a bite." Pretending to bite it, Dabao and Xiaobao hurriedly laughed and ran away. Ching Xing was very excited and rubbed her hands. "Sister, can I give it to a few of my friends?" Ching Xing also has several friends with whom she can get along in the village. Su Qingyu also wanted to see everyone's reaction, so she nodded in agreement. Ching Xing ran out as soon as she heard the comment. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhjiaoye 11U. Chapter 396. Within a few days, many women came to Sari for help. They all want some white soil to go back and wash their faces with. Su Qingyu also gave each person a can and explained how to use it. Let them go back and adjust it themselves. Suddenly, the women in the village suddenly became concerned about their own faces. As for the Su family, Su Qingyu now also mixes some to wash her face in the morning. All the women in the family also use it. After using it for a few days, the effect is very obvious. Su Qingyu was thinking about how to develop and utilize this thing. Such a good thing, if you don't use it to make some money, it always feels like a waste. But she rummaged through the personnel files in her hand and made inquiries, and found that there was no one who could make porcelain. The mountains are self-sufficient, and there are quite a few people who can make clay pots. The sauce jars in her workshop are all made by people in the mountains. Because of her large usage, a group of craftsmen in the mountains became rich. But after asking around, no one knows how to make porcelain. This porcelain making process is complicated, and it is really impossible to do it without some background. Make cosmetics? Under the current situation, I'm afraid I won't be able to make much money. Nowadays, we are not so wealthy and stable that women are willing to spend an hour or two lying on the beauty chair and being looked after. It's just for your own family's use and as a favor. Sukingyu thought about it for a few days and finally wrote a letter to Ma Mingwen. Seenkil produces white porcelain, and now kaolin has been discovered in you. He asked his godfather to find someone to see if white porcelain could be made in you. White porcelain is so beautiful, and it is also a project that can generate income for Vietnam. Why not make the best use of it to help local people become rich? After the letter was sent, Sukingnao also asked someone to send a sack of kaolin to Kui and write down the usage. Every woman is attracted by things that can make her beautiful. After the letter was sent, Sukingnao dropped the matter. Within a few days, Su's father also led people to build several houses for people. Several people entered the village on their own and quickly adapted. If you have food and drink, you don't have to worry about your livelihood, and your life is stable, there is nothing unhappy about it. Several women sometimes helped build houses, and sometimes followed the women in the village to the mountains to pick tea and various mountain products. Sukingyu also let them keep the money they sold. Everyone was excited with the coins they got. I originally spent all my money on the road, but I didn't expect that in just a few days, I would have copper coins in my pocket again. And it wasn't given by the eldest brother, sister-in-law, or Qing Lao, it was all earned by them themselves. Having the money you earn in your hands makes you feel at ease and happy. Lu Kaya and Xiaohe were especially happy. Although half of the money was taken away by Feng, they still kept half of it. Lu Kaya was happy because she finally had money on her body. If I work harder in the future, I might be able to save a fortune for Liwa. From now on, if Liwa gets sick again, she will be able to afford medical treatment. And Xiaohe felt that now that he was rich, even if he didn't marry into a good family in the future, he would be able to support himself without making his family feel like he was a burden. She can support herself too. The two of them were extremely happy. Highly motivated. We really came to the right place in this mountain. I just regret why I didn't come earlier. And the fact that the two of them were able to save half of their money was all due to Sukingyu. The goods they picked were to be sent to Sukingnao to sell. Sukingnao knew how much they would get, so she got the money after seeing them, so Feng came to ask for it from them. Sukingyu gave Feng a beating. They said that this would dampen their enthusiasm. No matter how hard they worked, they would not get a penny from them. So would they still be willing to work hard to collect goods from the mountains? Wouldn't it be better to lie down comfortably at home? But if they can save half of their money, they will become more aggressive in trying to earn more, so that Feng will have more in her hands. Sukingyu told her, and then asked Su's mother and Zheng to follow suit. The two of them persuaded Feng again. He said that Xiaohe was going to get married after all, so how could he not save some money? Do we have to look at the faces of our younger brother and sister-in-law in the future? Even if she is a daughter, she still loses some flesh on her body, so she doesn't feel bad. There is also Cao Ya, and the text is gone. Cao Ya is a free man and can remarry at any time. If you leave Liwa behind, won't you still have to work hard to raise your granddaughter? She is still willing to serve you and raise your granddaughter for you, what else are you unhappy with? Do you have to force her away? When Mrs. Feng heard this, she thought about it for a while and agreed, leaving half of the money for them. As long as they want to save money, they will always find ways to make money. In this way, she can also save some money for Yowu to marry her daughter-in-law. Lu Kaya and Xiaohe even went to Sukingnao to express their gratitude, which made Sukingnao, Su's mother, Sukingliu, and others sigh with emotion. Why is my second aunt getting more and more picky now? Sukingliu sighed while feeling grateful that her mother's family was doing well. I was born into the right child in this life. With your second uncle gone, it's as if the sky has fallen for her as a woman, and the military general also wants to marry his daughter-in-law. If you don't save some money for him, who will marry him in the future? Mother Su sighed. That's fine. Understand Feng's search. Several people sighed deeply. Su Qingnao felt that if Feng didn't become a monster and was willing to live a peaceful life, she wouldn't mind helping them. After the house was built, the family was divided into a small courtyard, not far from each other and not far from the big house. Normally everyone can take care of me. After only drying for a few days, everyone moved over happily. Su's father and Su's mother packed a lot of things for the people in the houses and asked them to take them there. From large furniture to small needles and threads, food and supplies, they arranged them carefully and neatly for the several families. Su Qingyu was also given 20 taels for a room. If she needed anything, she would go to the market to buy it. He also allocated fields to each of their houses, and only the fields in the fields were taken care of, which was enough for the family to eat for a year. In the mountains, there were 2 seasons a year, and there was still a lot left over a year. Now you don't have to worry about not having enough to eat. On the first day of moving, Su Sangzi, Su Saiquan, and Su Yowu from the second room called Su's father, and the men got drunk together. Brother, I accept your love. If it weren't for eldest brother, we still don't know where we are, whether we are dead or alive. Yes, thanks to big brother, we no longer have to worry about going hungry. Thank you, uncle. If it weren't for uncle, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to pick up a second wife. His father is gone, his brother is gone, his grandparents are gone, and he suddenly loses his backbone. Fortunately, I have an uncle now. What are you talking about? Mom and dad are gone. The elder brother is like the father. If the elder brother has food, you will be indispensable. Thank you, brother. After several people moved, they all went to the market town to buy some things they usually use. When I went to the market town, I saw it was more lively than Fengting town. I thought people in the mountains were poor, but didn't I expect they were all so rich? No matter how many days there are people every day. There are also people in every store. There are even long queues at places where people buy mountain goods. After getting money from selling goods, everyone is willing to spend some money in the market town and bring some food for the family, old and young, and they are even willing to eat and drink. The streets in this market town are full of people every day, and they are lively from morning to night. I went to the market town and was dazzled by the people in several rooms. Then I saw people from the military patrolling, and thousands of people practicing martial arts with them every day. Feeling at ease. After coming back, I set up my home and started working in the fields. In their free time, they are very active in looking for mountain products in the mountains. Just like squirrels, they hide all kinds of food in their homes, fearing that they will go hungry. On this day, Yaowu came to Su Qingyu and said that he wanted Su Qingyu to arrange a job. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 397. Why did you think of finding something to do? Can you survive working in the fields? Su Qinjiao was not surprised that Wu Hui came to her again asking for work. Read. Her cousins seemed to be reasonably sensible people. Before moving to her own home these days, she always had meals at Su Qingyu's house, and she also secretly observed everyone. Except for Mr. Feng, who likes to say some sarcastic words, everyone else sticks to their duties and is grateful to Dafang's family. Normally, it would not be too much trouble for Dafang and his family, nor would they make any other requests. Therefore, the Dafang family is quite satisfied with the people living in these houses, and is usually willing to give them a hand. For example, when Lucaya went to the mountains to collect wild products, and when Su Saiquan was busy building a house, Su's mother helped take care of the pear blossoms and green dates. The two children also liked their aunt and grandma and liked to stay in the big room. Now that each room has been moved to their own home, and they are all firing their own guns, so King Nao is not surprised that Su Yawu would come to see her at this time. His father is gone, his brother is gone, and the burden of running the family falls on his shoulders. It is normal for him to have some thoughts. In Su Qingyu's impression, Yawu had a lively and out-of-the-box temperament. Looking at him now, he has become calm and restrained, like a man who supports the family. Seeing Su Qingyu's question, Su Yawu replied, "I'm very busy. The people in the village have planted the rice in the fields early. Normally, my mother and sisters-in-law can just pull the weeds and take care of them. It doesn't require much work." After Su Yawu finished speaking, he lowered his head and rubbed his hands helplessly, fearing that Su Qingyu might refuse. Their family has already received a lot of care from the third sister. They have helped build houses, divided fields, given this and that, and given money. It seems too much for him to ask for more. The third sister is not short of people. "What kind of work do you want to do?" Su Qingyu asked. I want to go to the mine." "Going to the mine? Why?" "If you are looking for work, there are many jobs to do in the village. You can arrange a sauce room, a tofu room, and a rice noodle room. It is also close to home. The wages are high there." After speaking, he lowered his head. "I feel a little embarrassed, as if I want to take money from the third sister's pocket." Su Qingyu expressed her understanding after hearing this. She has 3 workshops in the village, including the iron workshop on the hill next door, plus the iron mine over there. It is indeed the iron mine that pays the highest wages. But it's also the hardest. Very hard. "Third sister, I'm not afraid of hard work." Su Qingyu began to look at this cousin. It was obvious that he meant these words sincerely. He wanted to pick up a second wife as soon as possible. He didn't have a family himself, so he probably wanted to save some capital. Su Qingyu looked at his body. He might have suffered a lot in the past few months while traveling south, and his body was thin and weak. In this condition, he might not be able to survive in the mine. After thinking for a while, he said, "You should go to the training school to train for 3 months and polish your body bones. Now all men over the age of 16 in each village have to go there to train. You should also train for a few months. When the training period is over, I will arrange it for you." Su Yawu was stunned for a moment and nodded, "Okay. When should I go?" "Let's go tomorrow." "Yes." After Wu Wu left, Su Sanquan and Su Sixi also ran over after receiving the news. "Qing Lao, did you hear that all men have to go to the training ground to train?" "Yes. Now that the mountains are producing food, life is getting richer, and bandits are often visiting, so every male in the village will be assigned to go on duty at the mountain entrance of the village to stand guard, so they are all required to have some physical skills. It doesn't require much proficiency, but it does require being able to protect yourself." The two brothers looked at each other and said, "Okay, this is a good idea. If you know how to punch and kick this way south, the journey will be smoother." Then he said, "Then let's go too." "But will it delay the work in the fields?" Su Qingyu said, "Adult men don't train all day long, they only train for half a day, and they can also work on their own affairs for the other half of the day, and they only train intensively for 3 months. "Okay, let's go together tomorrow." Su Qingyu nodded. Su Sanquan thought of Qing Yang. Although he and Yagui were only 1 year apart, it now seemed that Qing Yang was capable of both literary and martial arts and had grown up to be a very promising person. He was a handsome young man, but he was also a martial artist. He stood with Qing Yang. "One piece is like a follower. Moreover, Qing Lao's two sons, Dabao and Xiaobao, are also capable of both literary and martial arts at a very young age. Make him envious. Who doesn't want their children to have a bright future? Moreover, the world is so chaotic. If you can learn some skills, you can protect yourself when you go out. Well, Qing Lao, look, Yagui, can you learn martial arts with Qing Yang? He is only over 10 years old, and he can't do much work in the fields now. After saying that, he looked at Sukingyu with some anxiety, fearing that she would disagree. Sukingyu thought for a while and nodded, then let him come to Qing Yang tomorrow and let him go with Qing Yang. Hey, then I'll let him get up early tomorrow. Susangzi was very happy after hearing this. After making arrangements for the men in the family, seeing that Lukaya, Xiaohe and Qiuju also wanted to earn some money, they were assigned to various workshops. After making these arrangements, seeing that several days had passed and I didn't know what was going on with the hundreds of families next door, I decided to go over and have a look. When I walked to the door of Gu Changqing's house, I saw that Xian Niang was playing with her son and daughter at the door and endorsing books. Thinking about it again, I saw a 12.5-year-old children playing wildly in the village, and I was thoughtful. "Madam, why are you here?" Xian Niang saw her and greeted her hurriedly. "I came over to see you. How are you? Are you still getting used to living here?" "Get used to it? Why don't you get used to it? It's better than before. You can live in peace of mind." "That's good. As for the children, the climate in the mountains can be adapted to it. Don't worry, the children are doing well. They are happy every day. I didn't dare to let them go out before. Now I can let them go as they please. There will be no mistakes in the village. Everyone looks at each other. There are people guarding the village every day." Very relieved, Sukingyu teased the two children for a while and liked them very much when she saw how cute and well behaved they were. "Where's my brother?" The two children still remember Dabao and Xiaobao. He also looked behind her. "Brother is going to learn martial arts. After they take a rest, let them come and play with you, okay?" "Good." Sukingyu smiled and touched the heads of the two children, and then asked Xian Niang, "Where is your mother?" "Mom, she can't sit still. She's either in the fields or picking up wild goods in the mountains. There's never a day when she's not idle." "Will it be hard?" "No, my mother and I take turns taking care of the children at home. Don't worry too much. My mother is very happy. She said she will die here in the future. She regards the village as her home. I don't know how happy she is to live here. She sleeps all night, it's fragrant." "That's good." Remembering that she was teaching the children to read just now, she asked, "Have you ever read?" "I've read it. But it's useless for a woman to read too many books. She doesn't need them on a daily basis." "Why can't it be used?" Sukingyu thought of the many idle children she saw in the village. Everyone was busy with housework and had no time to take care of the children. The children gathered together and played wildly in the village. People found it annoying. "At age, I have already reached the appropriate school age." He then said, "I'm going to open a private school. How about asking you to be my teacher?" "Ah. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 398. Xian Niang thought she heard wrongly and didn't react for a long time. Read. After reacting, he hurriedly waved his hands and shook his head. "I can't do it. I have never been a gentleman. And there are no female gentlemen." "Who said there are no female teachers? Aren't there all female teachers in female schools?" "That's different. People are all really talented and educated. I just studied at my parents' house for a few years. Don't let others mislead you. You haven't taught me yet, so how do you know you've misled your disciples? Sukingyu was originally just a suggestion, but now in the process of persuading Xian Niang, she has become more determined to start a private school. She didn't know how long this dynasty would be in chaos, and how long it would take for unification. She only knew that from the fall of the Tang dynasty to the unification of the northern Song dynasty, there were 53 years of chaos. If we quantify it based on natural age, one generation in modern times is generally 25 to 30 years, but lifespan in ancient times was not that long, and one generation was between 10 and 20 years. So after calculation, these 53 years are a gap. 2 generations. If 30 years is taken as one life, that is almost 2 lives. Because the world is in chaos and the imperial examinations are in retreat, shouldn't everyone stop studying? Children of this generation can only play wildly in the mountains, and when they grow up, they can dig dirt in the fields and go up the mountains to pick up wild goods. Being blind? Why did you teach Sirasjia to read? Sukingyu looked at her and asked. I don't want my child to not even know the big Chinese characters. The child's father is a general, and she doesn't want her child to be a soldier in the future. I'm glad you think so. I think the same about my 2 sons. Then do the families of the hundreds of soldiers and soldiers on this mountain think the same as you and me? They also want their children to be literate and do it in the future. A promising person, so that their life will have many paths in the future. Xian Niang frowned and started thinking. After a long while, he looked at Sukingyu and said, I'm afraid I won't be able to shoulder this heavy burden. Of course you can't do this alone. If you want to handle this matter, it's not just our Xinjianzai that has school-age children. There are many children in these 45 joint villages. There are a swarm of swarms coming here, and you can't do this alone. I have an old boy who has opened a private school before. He is familiar with the matter of opening a private school. Then I will look for anyone who has studied and has some knowledge and recruit them to join you. Xian Niang thought about it for a long time and then said, okay, I can't do it alone. This way everyone can still discuss with each other. Sukingyu nodded, yeah. Look at who among these family members is as capable as you. If you find 2 or 3 more women to join you, you won't be too isolated. As for the male gentleman, I'll find a few more people. Okay. But, looking at the 2 children beside her, if she was busy with private school affairs, who would take care of the family affairs and the 2 children? Sukingyu followed her gaze and understood, why don't you hire someone in the village to help take care of the children and do housework? How about I help you buy some servants from outside? I'll discuss it with my mother first to see if we should hire someone or buy someone. Good. If possible, Sukingyu didn't want to embarrass her. But there are so few people who can read in the mountains now, and she is afraid that she won't be able to find a few who can be teachers. The 2 discussed some more details, but Sukingyu still only had a framework. This idea came to her when she went to the village and saw a bunch of children doing nothing. The specific details need to be further refined, and the building is not yet available. Not in a hurry either. After the 2 agreed, Sukingyu left and walked around the village, asking about everyone's daily living conditions. When she saw that the situation was fine, she felt relieved. Went to the gate of the village to take a look at the defense work. Now that there are more people in the village, including more women and children, the defense work cannot be ignored. Seeing that the defense work was done well and the people on duty were serious and responsible, I felt relieved. When I got home, I dived into the house and started planning the private school. After it was done, they sent someone to find Gu Hongde. Ah! My boss is going to open a private school. Gu Hongde's face was full of disbelief. He finally forgot the fact that he was a private school teacher and a child. He worked in the workshop with everyone, went to the mountains to pick tea leaves and mountain products in his spare time, and lived a very happy life with his grandson. Why did the boss think of him again and want him to open a private school, and he should be fully responsible for it? Boss, the private school I opened before was not big, with only 20 or 30 students. This. There are more than just these in the main village of Xinjianzai, there are also children from the next mountain top, and those from the joint village. Child. Although he felt hot in his heart, he was afraid that he would not be able to bear the burden with so many children. Don't worry. In the past, when you opened a private school, you had to take care of everything from students to school buildings to teaching materials and teaching aids, but now you don't need to take charge. You are mainly responsible for teaching the children, managing the children and managing a few teachers. The rest there are people who are responsible for everything. That's okay. That old man is still experienced. How many gentlemen should we look for? Does the boss have any candidates? About 3 female gentlemen, 3 male gentlemen, plus you as the curator, there will be at least 7 teachers. The boss wants to recruit female students. Sukinya glanced at him sideways. Women are not qualified to be literate. No, I didn't mean that. I only asked after hearing that my boss wanted to recruit a female gentleman. After saying that, I saw that my boss didn't say anything more and wiped his sweat. So close. In this mountain, there is no saying that women cannot go out. There are many female village leaders. The joint village presidents of dozens of villages are all women. Why can't girls study? I almost said the wrong thing. Does that mean there will be a male class and a female class? Sukinya pondered for a while and shook her head. There is no need to divide the classes into classes. They are only divided into elementary school classes and beginner classes. But I'm afraid there won't be many who have some basic knowledge. The two agreed and started to take care of it. The market town is boiling with excitement again. What did the people who lined up to sell goods see today? Another notice was hung outside the store where the goods were received. The guy who updated the account stood on a high stool and read the notice repeatedly. First, we need to recruit labor to build the school. Men who are over 16 years old and under 50 years old will be paid 15 cents a day. Includes 3 meals a day. The second is that the school is about to open, and both men and women can sign up for it, from 6 to 15 years old. It is a 3-year schooling system with no required courses. Each academic year only charges miscellaneous fees, such as pen, ink, paper and inkstones, uniforms, and lunch expenses. If you have a long journey, accommodation can be provided, but you need to pay the accommodation fee. Anyone who meets the conditions can register. In addition, if you have a good reputation or have been a teacher, you are welcome to recommend yourself and you will be rewarded generously. Like a basin of oil poured into a hot fire, the market town immediately became a sensation. From morning to night, the market town was crowded with mountain people who came to inquire about the news, and the market town was completely surrounded. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 399. Xiang Shankai came back from Tiantai County and was arrested again. He and Wei Fucain were responsible for building the school building. The school building is still built near the market town. There is a school ground and Ma Xin and others are there. Children come to class, and parents feel more at ease. Gu Hongd was in charge of recruiting students. As soon as he arrived in the market town and sat down at the position in charge of recruiting students, he was surrounded by mountain people who came to inquire about the information on 3 floors and 3 floors outside. Dozens of village owners from Lianzai also flocked to the service center in the market town, and Suqingyu held meetings with them for 2 days. President, are you really accepting both boys and girls? Yes. You really don't want to practice restraint? No, but tuition and fees will still be charged. It should. If we don't close the discipline, where will the salaries of the gentlemen come from? The market town has also made a lot of money in the past 2 years. Let's take it from the people and use it for the people, and pay it out of the market town's income. The president is righteous, the voices kept coming and going. Sukingyu raised her hand and pressed it. What do you think of this matter, and what is the reaction in the village? Of course we are extremely supportive. We did not catch up with the good times and were blind, but their generation caught up with the president and led us to wealth. Now that everyone is living a better life, naturally they want their children to be able to. There is a future. Ever since I saw the notice posted by the president, the threshold of our home has been stepped down. People come to inquire about the news all the time, and we almost can't go out. So everyone wants to send their children to study. They all nodded, yes. There are some families who need help from their children, and those whose families can't spare the money are also hesitant. Yeah. I understand. You can't force it. You don't necessarily need to study and learn to read to have a future and survive. You can't make it difficult for your family to live because of this matter. It will cause trouble to everyone. Yes. Sukingyu knew that there must be some people who would not send their children here for various reasons, such as the long distance, the reluctance to give up money, or the fact that there were many children at home, or there were small children at home who needed older children to help with housework. Variety. Even with the 9-year compulsory education in modern times, many children in remote rural areas cannot go to school, let alone the current environment. What about after reading and becoming literate? There may not be many people in the mountains who want to send their children to take the imperial examination. And the current environment does not allow it. Even if you pass the imperial examination, which dynasty and emperor will you serve? Sukingyu didn't intend to force everyone to get married. But now everyone has enough to eat and is well off, and families who love their children will think more about their children. And if people around you are sending their children to school, and your own children are watching eagerly, there will also be a herd effect. Sukingyu had seen the personnel files of each village before, and she knew how many school-age children there were. At this meeting, she once again counted the number of children who were willing to study. Next, she had to arrange a lot of things, and the number of students was the key. The school building was quickly filled with people. As soon as everyone heard that they were not allowed to send their children to school, anyone at home who wanted to send their children to school volunteered to help. They refused to take any wages, so they started working. Xian Niang found 2 people from her family to work with her as mistresses, and also hired people in the village to help with housework. Her mother-in-law was very open-minded. When she heard that the madam wanted to ask her daughter-in-law to be a mistress, she was very happy and supportive. She took the 2 children over and pushed Xian Niang to Sukingyu to get the job. And Gu Hongde has also recruited male teachers. I originally wanted to recruit 3, but 5 of them met the requirements. Sukingyu counted the registered children and estimated that there would be thousands of children in the 45 villages. So I kept 5 male gentlemen who met the conditions. There are 9 in total including Gu Hongde. If there are thousands of school children, these 9 gentlemen may not be enough. However, there are very few people who can read and read in the mountains, so it is good to single out these 9 gentlemen. If you are too busy in the future, I will look for you later. Next comes the matter of books. Sukingyu called 9 gentlemen and asked them about the teaching materials. After some discussion, they decided to start teaching from 300,000. Sukingyu sent Qingyang to a private school before and learned about the current private school education. Nowadays, Mengtong still starts with literacy. From the initial 3, 100, 1000, to collection of famous sages, poems of prodigy, to 5-character miscellaneous characters, 7-character miscellaneous characters and so on. This is the first stage, starting with literacy education. The education, or books, of this period had a common feature, which was that the sentences were short and neat, The four tones were clear, the oblique and oblique words were opposite to each other, the syllables were easy to read, and the characters were large. Even children who are not very smart can read it easily, it is catchy, and they can master it quickly. Once the sentence is read well, the words will be memorized. This stage makes full use of the characteristics of Chinese and Chinese characters with single and four-syllable syllables, giving full play to the characteristics of strong memory in childhood. It also fully avoids the shortcomings of poor understanding in childhood and avoids using obscure and difficult knowledge that will cause children to be bored. Study. This period mainly focuses on the development and training of children's memory, so as to achieve the purpose of strengthening knowledge and memory, and achieving the purpose of literacy. After completing the first stage of literacy education, reading education begins in the second stage. Read, recite, and understand. These are the 4 books and the 5 classics. After reaching a consensus with several gentlemen, Suqingyu thought about where to buy these 300,000 books. In this era were quite expensive, and she bought so many at once. The quantity was so large that she had to find a big merchant to help get the goods. When Suqingyu was still thinking about where to buy so many books and whether she should ask her godfather for help, shopkeeper Ding came to her. Ms. Su has done another good deed for the mountains. Ding admires her very much. I am ashamed of Ms. Su's high righteousness. Shopkeeper Ding is serious. He just saw a bunch of children doing nothing at home. They are too young to help the family. He wanted to gather them together to recognize a few words so that they would not go blind. Ding admires Ms. Su's foresight. In the future, under the governance of the King of Yu, you will definitely prosper and will definitely need a lot of talents. After Ms. Su has trained these students, are you still worried that the King of Yu will lack people to use it? Ms. Su has now become Princess of the Yu Kingdom. This is really a plan for the Yu Kingdom that will last 100 years. Ah, she didn't think that far ahead. It was just that the adults in the mountains were busy, and the children were left unattended, rolling around in the mountains, and she couldn't stand it. Shopkeeper Ding has given me too much praise. I came today. I was so embarrassed by his praise. Ding heard that Ms. Su was worried about books for school children. Manager Li got the news and ordered someone to send a message, saying that I, Yongfeng, was willing to help and purchase the school books for Ms. Su, and only charged the cost. Don't make Ms. Su a penny. So good. So high-spirited. Suqingyu looked at him with an unmoving expression. Manager Li said that it has been a pleasure to cooperate with Ms. Su in the past few years. Our Yongfeng Hao has made a lot of money because of Dakingshan and has become one of the best companies. We also want to give something back to the mountain people. Suqingyu looked at him intently. Shopkeeper Ding was frightened by her sight, but she didn't show any signs of it. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhao 11U. Chapter 400. The two glanced back and forth. After a while, Suqingyu said, "Okay, I agree." Shopkeeper Ding let out a long breath. The Yongfeng is a timely help. From now on, all the materials we need for Qingshan Academy will be purchased by the Yongfeng. Shopkeeper Ding immediately smiled. Manager Li said that Ms. Su is a smart person, and she can tell with just one point, and it is true. Thank you, Madam Su, for your trust. Next, the two started discussing various materials, quantity, quality, color, size, etc. In addition to books, we also need to purchase pens, inks, paper and inkstones that school children use every day, which is a big deal. There is also a need for a lot of cloth for making clothes for teachers and school children. There are also some other materials. If the school continues to operate, Yongfeng will continue to cooperate with them. Yongfeng Gao is a business that has to support many people. It has the heart to give back to the mountain people, but it will not engage in loss-making business. For Suqingyu, This supplier only makes it for everyone, and it is better to do it raw than to do it cooked. Although Manager Li of the Yongfeng is a shrewd person, he has a bottom line and credibility. When working with Su Qingyu, he knows her rules well and the two of them are very happy to work together. She didn't want to change to an unfamiliar business name and have to get used to it all over again. After the books were settled, it was time to build the school building. There were Xiang Shang and Wei Fukang at the construction site, so she had nothing to worry about. She only drew the drawings, called in all the carpenters from Lianzai, and concentrated their work on making tables and chairs for the school. Notices were also put up, asking students who wanted to enroll to come and sign up, and prepare tailor-made clothes and various entrance supplies. The notice was just put up, and the market town was once again crowded. No matter how far away the village was, the news was also received, and within 3 days, registration was completed. Because the enrollment age has been increased to 15, there are a lot of applicants. Many people also think that entering school at the age of 13, 14, or 5 is too old. Many people were hesitant around the table. After all, at this age, he has to do most of the work at home. And the schooling lasts 3 years. 14 or 15 years old is the age for marriage. How about 17 or 18 years old? Do I have to study for 3 years? Not necessarily. It's not mandatory. If you have learned a lot of words in 1.5 years and feel it is enough and don't want to come, no one will force you to leave. Gu Hongde and several other gentlemen sat in front of the table. They were asked various questions and patiently answered them one by one. Will there be any consequences if I drop out of school? They can come and leave whenever they want. If they anger the president and he stops accepting their goods, and if he has any work to do, he won't come to their home anymore. That would be a huge loss. The president and the village owners always said that they would not take any village with them to play, and their village owners would go back to the village and say which family they would not take with them. They were very afraid. It has no impact. The president just wants everyone to recognize some words. At least they should be able to understand the plagues on the shops in the market town, right? You need to understand the contents of the deed, right? If you can understand the riddles of the Yuanri Lantern Festival, you don't need help from others. Read it, right? It doesn't matter how long you study, it's your freedom. Can you really drop out of school at any time? Yes. This is the first time this year. There are many situations that the president cannot estimate. In the future, you will still have to make adjustments based on the situation. Don't worry, you are free to learn or not, and how long you want to learn is also your freedom. The president is not, so take some time to remember your little things. Okay, I'll sign up for my child. He is 14 years old this year. You can write. It took 3 days for registration to end. A total of 886 people. There are less than 20 in each village. There are far more children between the ages of 6 and 15. But even if Su Qingyu doesn't practice cultivation, there are still various situations where she doesn't come to learn. For example, if there are many children in the family, only 1 or 2 will be allowed to come. Some families with small children will have to rely on their children to look after the house and will not come. The female children accounted for only a quarter. Although the status of girls in the mountains is higher than outside, the common thought is that it is of little use for girls to read and read. If they have time to go to the mountains to collect some mountain products and sell them for money, they can supplement the family a lot in a year. Regarding these, Su Qingyu did not force it. And she didn't think too far ahead. She didn't know what future prospects the children would have after they completed their studies at the academy, how to arrange for them, and whether it would allow them to have a better living environment and better quality of life than they did now. Let's take a step at a time. She simply felt that being able to read and recognize some words was better than being blind. She simply wanted to do this, and she had no control over what effect it would achieve. She cannot impose her will on her mountain folk. After the registration was over, the Yongfeng ship also delivered the cloth she needed. This time she did not hang up the notice, but moved the cloth back to Xinjianzai. Recruiting female workers in her own village to make school uniforms for the students. There are many skilled women in the main village, second village, and third village of Xinjianzai. The wealth does not go to outsiders, so the wages fall into the hands of our own people first. If there is insufficient manpower, a notice will be posted to recruit people from outside. Su Qingnao laid out the styles of school uniforms for boys and girls, divided the work processes, and asked the female workers who came to pick up the work to do their work and take the cloth back to their homes for production. It is still produced according to the assembly line. Some parts are drawn to size, some are cut, and some are sewn. In this way, the process is divided into streamlined operations to ensure speed. Dozens of women happily carried mountains of cut cloth home. Yaya and Qingxing originally learned female red from Su's mother, but now they are better and have the opportunity to operate. I dare not let them do sewing yet, but I can still do some line drawing and cutting work. Mother Su put them among the female workers every day and asked them to learn from them. The aunt and nephew stood there every day until their feet were numb and did not dare to complain a word. After all, their school uniforms are also included. Qingxing and Yaya were very happy when they heard that they were allowed to go to the academy to study. Muye was looking forward to being able to escape from Su Mu's clutches. A few days later, Ma Mingwen's letter arrived. After receiving the kaolin clay produced in Yongjia, Tiantai, mentioned in Su Qingnao's letter, Ma Mingwen sent people to see it on the spot. He also found many craftsmen from across the country to open a kiln for firing porcelain. He said in the letter that if it was made, it would be a great achievement for Su Qingyu. In the letter, Kui Yuing also used kaolin clay to make a mud mask on her face according to the method she said. The effect was very good. She also tried it with people around her, and many people came to ask her for help. Her ladyship was successful in diplomacy. Overjoyed, I sent her a lot of cloth jewelry with the letter. Hearing that Su Qingyu wanted to open a school, Ma Mingwen expressed his strong support in the letter and said that if he needed a teacher, he could send someone over. She also enclosed 5,000 taels of silver with the letter for her to pay for the school expenses. Su Qingyu was very moved. The smoothness of her journey is inseparable from meeting this noble man, Ma Mingwen. If he hadn't been supporting her from behind, she wouldn't be so stable in this mountain. Many people and forces have already come to attack the stronghold and plunder it. Ma Mingwen is now one of the major forces in the south. He has hundreds of thousands of soldiers and horses in his hands. He has strong soldiers and horses, abundant food, and sophisticated weapons. He does not dare to hit a stone with an egg at a young age. Even Yang Bai felt uncomfortable being caught in the middle of the Wu kingdom and wanted to annex more territory, but he did not dare to make any big moves. He only dared to let his men have small fights and tentative provocations. He was afraid that he would offend Ma Mingwen and swallow up his country of Wu. The more stable the country becomes, the more stable Su Qingyu, her family, and the people of the 45 villages in the mountains will be. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 401. On the first day of August, Qingshan Academy was officially opened. Read. Early in the morning, the big and little babies didn't even need Su Qingyu to wake them up, they just got up first. The two brothers shook Su Qingyu awake, one on the left and the other on the right, and urged her to wash and dress. Dabao and Xiaobao are not yet 6 years old and have not yet reached the previous admission standards. But they both have a solid foundation and look older than other kids of the same age. In addition, when the two of them heard that there were hundreds of students studying together in the academy, Their hearts felt like grass growing, and they were not willing to study alone with Ma Xian anymore. I have to go there if I have to make a fuss. Su Qingyu didn't want her two children to be special. It would be easier for them to grow up if they were together with their peers. He discussed it with Ma Xian and adjusted their schedules. I followed him to class in the morning and continued to learn martial arts from Ma Xian in the afternoon. The school has enrolled nearly 900 students, with 40 students in each class divided into 22 classes. There are only about 20 people who have the same basic skills as Dabao and Xiaobao, so we can set up a beginner's class just for them. There are 4 people in her family who are in their 20s, including Gu Hong's grandson, Xiang Shang's son, Ling Fenggu's grandson, and the rest are almost all the children of the soldiers' families. There are not 1 or 2 school children with basic knowledge in the mountains. The children enrolled this time range in age from 4 to 15 years old. There is 1 beginner class, and the rest are all placed in the elementary school class. Those over 10 years old were put together. There were more than 100 girls, divided into 3 classes, which were assigned to 3 female teachers including Xian Niang. Originally, Dabao and Xiaobao quit working when they heard that there were so few people in their class. I insisted on making a fuss about going to the elementary school class, but Su Qingyu stopped me. Either go to Grandpa Ma's place to continue practicing martial arts, or go to a beginner's class. The 2 brothers couldn't resist her, so they had to accept it humbly. The museum opened today, and the 2 children were more excited than she was. As the director of the museum, Su Qingyu was going to host the opening ceremony. The 2 children were so excited that they woke her up early in the morning. I hope they can be self-conscious like this every day when they go to school. After the mother and son had freshened up, they took Qing Yang, Qing Xing, Yufu and others who were equally excited to the school. The school is next to the market town. Not far from the training camp. The 2 sons were chattering excitedly all the way. One has never been to a school to study, and the other has never been with so many students, and he was extremely excited along the way. I haven't slept well since last night and I've been uproarious all night. There were 2 children who were amusing themselves all the way, and the distance didn't feel far away. The group of people soon arrived at the school. When we arrived at the entrance of the school, we found that many parents had already arrived with their children, crowded in front of the school, waiting to apply for admission. The place in front of the school is crowded with people. Su Qingyu stopped and looked at the school door. The 4 vigorous and powerful characters Qingshan Academy on the gate of the academy were written by the King of Yu, Ma Mingguan, and stamped with the seal of the King of Yu. The sight of it made people awe-inspiring. Even Dabao and Xiaobao stopped talking and opened their mouths. Looking up. The gate of the school is broad and grand. The school is built on the mountain and occupies a huge area. Because there were a large number of children and they had to learn martial arts, a large school ground and activity venue were built. There were also children from distant villages who had to stay at night, so the construction site was a bit larger. The curator is here. Several gentlemen checking in at the door saw her and hurriedly greeted her. When everyone heard this, they all looked towards her. Su Qingyu nodded to the crowd and took several children into the school. Dabao and Xiaobao held hands, staring at the adults and children on both sides. They were excited and proud, with their mouths tightly pursed and their faces serious. They looked like little adults, and they followed them into the school with steady steps. Chenzheng, all the children entered the school, and the parents were not invited. But no one wanted to leave, so they just stood on the mountain and looked down at the academy. After entering the school, they were first sorted into different classes in the open space, and the men and women stood in the same position. Their names were called and they were divided into classes. The teacher in charge of each class took the students back to the class. Let them change their clothes first, wait until they have changed into uniform student clothes, paid homage to the portrait of Confucius, and waited until the director announced the opening of the library before officially starting classes. The conditions of each family in the mountains are different. In order to prevent the children from comparing themselves to each other or feeling inferior in terms of dressing, Sukingyu decided early on to make uniform clothes for her husband and students. It was not made into a student robe. The children had to climb mountains and ridges to go to school, so it was inconvenient to make a student robe. They are uniformly made into narrow sleeves, upper and lower pieces. Male students wear a light brown knee-length gown with indigo piping on the collar and cuffs, an indigo belt and a scarf. Female students wear a sky blue knee-length gown with pink piping, a pink belt and a pink scarf. The gentlemen wear the same color as the students, but the male gentlemen wear robes and the female gentlemen wear undershirts. When all the school children came out after changing their clothes, the eyes of the parents on the mountain were widened. Niang Li, what kind of kid is this from the mountains? This must be the young master and lady in the city. Look at this spirit. Is it their child? I dare not admit it anymore. Parents were so excited that they looked for their children in the crowd. I wish I could be younger and enroll here. And some of those who didn't send their children regretted it endlessly. Comparing the school children who have changed their clothes with their own children, the gap is obvious. Look at how neat they look. I don't know if it's too late to send it now. The students who had changed their clothes were also excited and excited. They had never worn such clothes before. So lovely. Their hair was tied up again, and they wore, the gentleman said it was a silk scarf, and that all the students in the city wore it. So lovely. The little children touched their heads again and again, their little faces flushed with excitement. Following their respective husbands, they took steady steps, their bodies straightened, their faces raised high, and they looked very proud. Dabeo and Xiaobeo followed, looking for their mother in the crowd. The two of them would stretch out their clothes from time to time. They looked really good. They were dressed the same as everyone else. They wanted to show their mother. I wonder if she could find them. Sukingyu had noticed the two brothers a long time ago. They were at the front of the crowd. The two brothers were particularly conspicuous because of their exquisite appearance. Sukingyu saw them looking around, walked towards them and touched their heads. The two children's faces were bright red. Mom, do you look good? Xiaobeo raised his head, looking excited. Dabeo also pursed his lips and looked at her. It looks good. You have to study hard and be obedient in the academy, you know. I know. My brother and I must listen to our teacher. Be good students, Dabeo nodded to her after hearing this. Next, Guheng led a group of students to worship the statue of Confucius. I've never been taught etiquette, and I bowed crookedly, which made people look funny. But fortunately, no one was making any noise. Next, Sukingyu said a few words to the students, encouraging them to study hard and become useful people in the future. The opening was announced. Open the restaurant. The parents who were watching on the mountain outside were also excited after hearing this. Seeing the uniformed students in student uniforms entering their respective classrooms one by one, they felt their hearts surging. After several teachers took the students back to the classroom, Sukingyu and Deputy Director Guheng went to the teachers' activity room to discuss the curriculum. There are now 22 elementary school classes and 1 beginner's class, but there are only 9 teachers. Even if we add the 2 martial arts teachers Siyuan, it is not enough. Sukingyu had discussed with several gentlemen what classes to take in the school. The 6 arts of a gentleman are etiquette, music, archery, charioteering, calligraphy, and mathematics. Except for music, which she does not plan to teach at the moment, the rest are all to be learned. Qingshan Academy plans to pay equal attention to both civil and martial arts. Archery and imperial skills will be taught by martial arts teachers, and etiquette and calligraphy will be taught by 9 gentlemen. At present, only Guheng and 2 male gentlemen can teach this course, and the rest cannot teach this course. Still have to recruit another gentleman. Sukingyu looked at the class schedules of each class. There were not enough students, but the arts and martial arts classes were separated, and the arts were divided into reading and calligraphy, so they could be staggered. It works temporarily. I discussed various matters about Hoxyugwan with Gu Hongd, and also visited various classes. Books are being distributed to each class, and the gentlemen are reading various rules to the children and teaching them etiquette. Sukingyu felt relieved when she saw that her husband was serious and responsible, and that all the students were sitting in the brand new classroom and listening attentively. Sukingyu walked out of the school and saw many parents gathered around the door of the school, refusing to leave. There are many people who just came to watch the fun today. But as soon as I arrived, I saw that the school had a decent look. When the students changed their clothes, they were completely different from the kids in the mountains. Their mental outlook no longer looked like the crazy kids in the mountains. They were neat and tidy and knew etiquette. It's shocking to watch. Some people can't help but regret it. Seeing Sukingyu come out, he took her and asked if he could send their child. Sukingyu shook her head with a smile and said that the recruitment is full this year and all the work has been arranged, so she can only wait until next year. It made many people regret not folding. Sukingyu then went to see Ma Xian. When Ma Xian saw her, he nodded towards her and praised, "Yes, you have done something practical for the mountains again. Your godfather will not be short of people in the future. Now that the imperial examinations have almost been stopped, your godfather wants to employing people is based on recommendations from acquaintances and self-recommendations, and there is no standard for measuring character and knowledge. If you can do this in the long run, you will have your own set of talent assessment plans. Your godfather doesn't have to worry anymore. My godfather also mentioned it to me in his letter, but I am only educating children. It will take many years to teach children to take the exams for scholars. It will take many years to meet godfather's employment standards. The more places you want to employ people, the more you have to develop a set of assessment standards." Ma Xian sighed and said, "Nowadays, it is difficult for the police officers in various states and governments to find anyone who can read. If you teach them well, and there are more people who can read, they will naturally seek to make progress in the future. In the future, not only across the country, but also across the states. There are many places to employ people in each government, so we can't recruit people who can't even read documents. 2. Now it is estimated that there is a labor shortage everywhere. Once the imperial examinations were suspended, the world was in chaos, and there was no food to eat. Who would still study? But the leadership teams of various state governments have to operate. I didn't think so long term. I just saw that few people in the mountains were literate, and I felt anxious. I posted a notice and had people read it repeatedly at the door, held a lantern festival, and asked everyone to guess riddles, but no one was able to do the riddles. I understand. I just want everyone to know some words." Ma Xian nodded after hearing this. "You did a good job. Being able to read and write is much better than being blind. In the future, you won't be able to read the deed paper, be deceived, and have to look for someone to write a letter." Sukingyu nodded. It is naturally good to have more skills than to overwhelm oneself, and to have more knowledge. Looking at Ma Xian, "Uncle Xian, I came to you because I want you to help me select a few more martial arts teachers. I'm afraid they can't manage thousands of students if they just think of UNC Yuan. You only train in the morning now, so you should be able to pick a few people out." "Okay. How many do you want?" "Let's take 3 first." "Okay. I'll pick someone up later. By the way, Uncle Xian, do you have anyone who knows numerology? Most of the teachers don't know this course now. I want to find 2 teachers who know numerology. Children from the mountains don't have to know a lot of classics, but it's best to know numerology." You can't sell eggs without knowing how to count money. After the market town opened, many people brought their own things to exchange for copper coins, but after staying in the mountains for a long time, almost all of them were illiterate and didn't know how to count. People who don't even know how to count money when selling eggs can be seen everywhere. An egg costs 2 cents, and I want 8, so I don't know how much it costs. It takes 2 cents at a time, until it's enough for 8 eggs. I took a dime, but I couldn't change it. I didn't know how much to change. I would rather count the copper coins one by one and climb the mountain road home with a basket of copper coins. Sometimes you see people gathered together and think they are doing good business, but maybe they are just kind enough to help count the accounts. Suking Mei has seen such scenes several times and couldn't help laughing and crying. Ma Xian looked at her. Numerology. Your subordinates Yang Shang and your brother-in-law should be able to do it. I have considered them, but they are usually busy. It's okay for them to come and teach occasionally, but I'm afraid it won't work for them to teach in the academy for a long time. I have a lot of things to give them. Then count me in. You. Will it be hard? Nothing hard, there is no training in the afternoon now, I can teach in the afternoon. And I also like to stay with children. This way you won't have time to rest in the morning and afternoon. It's okay, I'm in good health very. I used to fight on the battlefield every day, which was much more tiring than this. How hard can it be to teach a few classes of children? Suching couldn't resist him and thanked him. Thank you, Uncle Xian. I originally thought that you should leave the two things in the market town and the parade ground to Qiliang and Luxiu, so that you can go back to Reizhu to accompany your family. You can't reunite with your family here alone. It's okay, I'm more comfortable staying in the mountains. Besides, what about Dabao, Xiaobao, and Qingyang when I leave? Your godfather is very optimistic about Xiaobao. If I leave, your godfather will definitely let me take Xiaobao to Reizhu. Are you willing to leave? No, I can't. But, you are alone here. It's okay. With the children by my side, I'm not lonely. Besides, I've also written back, asking my eldest grandson to come and accompany me. Originally, his parents thought that the mountain was secluded and there was not even a private school, so they didn't want him to come. But now your school is open, and there are so many children, my grandson will only feel happy. Besides, there are everything in the market, and the children will be willing to come, and then I won't be alone. Then I'll be relieved. After Suching left, Ma Xian picked up the pen and wrote a letter to his family, asking them to send Ma Zheng as soon as possible. This was also Ma Mingwen's intention, to let Ma Zheng grow up with Xiaobao, just like he and Ma Mingwen did in the past. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 402. Within a few days, Ma Xian's grandson Ma Zheng arrived in the mountains. Ma Xian arranged him into Xiaobao Dabao's class. Ma Zheng was 2 years older than Xiaobao. He was chubby and fleshy, with too much flesh on his face. When he smiled, the flesh squeezed out his eyes until there was only a slit left, which made him look particularly happy. Before Ma Xian could help several children with threading, Xiaobao and Dabao were playing with Ma Zheng. They are the youngest among the three in the beginner class. After class, they get together and play wildly in the school hall. Qingyang Qingxing originally felt a little uncomfortable being in the same class as her nephew, but they all had their own friends. Qingyang played with Gu Siming, Xiangxia, and Ling Nangxing, Qingxing played with Ling Zikan, and within 2 days, they and the girls from several families also joined together. Everyone has their own circle of friends. Xiaobao is still young, and after the initial excitement period, he becomes a little unable to sit still. The class lasted almost half an hour, and his butt felt like it was growing on nails. Several gentlemen saw that he couldn't sit still, so they didn't dare to discipline him. One was because he was young, and the other was that he was the curator's son. Fortunately, Qingyang Qingxing is in the same class and reminds him from time to time. But even so, he still looked around in class, looking at this classmate and that classmate, making small movements constantly, but his little butt just couldn't sit still. He is really smart, and he has a good memory. He can remember everything his teacher said, but he just doesn't have the personality. During class, I was looking forward to the end of get out of class and wondering where to play with Ma Zheng. Su Qingnao listened to Qingyang Qingxing's words and scolded him twice, but Xiaobao didn't hold back. Su Qingnao couldn't do anything about him, she couldn't keep an eye on him every day. After Ma Xian found out, he handed over the morning training to Qi Xiu and others. He went to the school in person and sat behind the class. As long as he dared to move, he would be arrested and sent outside to do horseback riding and run laps. He would not be allowed to eat until he finished. Let go home. Xiaobao made trouble twice, but Ma Xian, who had never made trouble before, finally gave in. Crying, she came back and hugged Su Qingyu's thigh. "Mom, I didn't work so hard before. Now I have to study literature and practice martial arts. I have to write big characters when I go home at night. It's so hard for little baby. Mom, don't wait until baby is full. Is it okay to go to school again when you are 6 years old? Okay, then you won't go to the school from tomorrow on, just play with grandma and Ning Ning at home. Ning Ning is not fun at all. Lying there, eating or sleeping, drooling, and unable to speak. Mom, Xiaobao said that she will not go to school until she is 6 years old, but she still has to go to school. You don't even study anymore, why are you going to the academy? Su Qingjao knew about him. This child didn't want to go to the academy as soon as he heard it was hard. Unlike some children who couldn't get up in the morning, crying and scratching the door frame and not wanting to go to the academy. Xiaobao didn't have that. He gets up early every day. I look forward to going to the academy every day. But the child just wasn't happy to sit in the classroom for so long. He refused to read and write Chinese characters quietly and wanted to play with other children in the school. Xiaobao is very serious about learning martial arts. The child, who is just over 4 years old, persists without complaining or complaining about being tired. But it's this reading, 3 minutes of heat. I wonder if he was too influenced by the genes of his scumbag father. Xiaobao rolled his eyes, hugged her thigh, and said with a smile, "I'm going to accompany my brother. It's so boring to be alone. Brother, your uncle and aunt are with him and he doesn't need you." Yes, I have an uncle and an aunt. With a roll of his eyes and a pair of little hands, he came up with another idea. Xiaobao can wait for his brother outside and go home with his uncle and aunt. If you go there, your uncle will still have to carry you. You should stay at home and play with Ning Ning. Xiaobao doesn't want it. Xiaobao wants to go to the school. If you go to the academy and don't study, it's useless to go to the academy. It works, why doesn't it work? I still have to take martial arts classes. Although I can't draw the bow yet, we are already practicing the accuracy. Xiaobao's accuracy is really good. Well, yes, you are very accurate. At a young age, I was praised by my martial arts teacher, and taking martial arts classes was the most positive thing. I just don't like Chinese language classes. How about this? Your grandfather said that he wants to take you with him and teach you personally. How about mom send you to your grandfather in Reizhu? That way you can keep learning martial arts and don't have to take liberal arts classes. Su Qingyu didn't know how to persuade this child who couldn't sit still, and planned to scare him. When the time comes, you can sleep with your uncle Xiaoduzi, and there are many uncles and uncles who can practice martial arts with you. Xiaobao was dumbfounded. Brother, won't you go? If my brother doesn't go, he still has to go to school to study. What about mother? Will mother go? Mother isn't going either. Mother's home is here, and there are still many things for mother to do in the village. Xiao Beimu was dumbfounded, not understanding why her mother wanted to send him away. Xiao Bao's home is also here. But Xiao Bao just wants to learn martial arts and doesn't want to miss literature classes. Mom will send you to your grandfather's house. Well, I will send you there tomorrow. Now mom will pack your luggage. As he said this, he decided to pack his luggage. Xiao Bao was stunned at first, then came to his senses and ran over to hug her thigh. Xiao Bao won't go, Xiao Bao won't go. Xiao Bao likes to take martial arts classes, doesn't he? If you go to Reyes-Hu, no one will ask you to take liberal arts classes. No, 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 I don't want to leave mom, Xiao Bao won't go, I won't go. I'd better send you there. It just frees up your seat. Last time there was a child in the village next door who wanted to go in and study. He just happened to sit in your seat. No, no. That's Xiao Bao's position, don't give it to anyone else. That's Xiao Bao's position. I won't give it to you. Wow, wow. This child also protects his food. What's wrong? Why is Xiao Bao crying? Aren't you happily studying for a few days? Mother Su ran in, confused. Su Qingyu waved to her and made a gesture, and Su's mother glanced at her beloved grandson worriedly and went out. Xiao Bao doesn't want to go to Reyes-Hu, Su Qingyu warmly comforted her son who was holding onto her thigh. I don't want to, don't go. Mom, don't send Xiao Bao away. He hugged her tightly but didn't let go. But you don't like reading, so I just want to free up your place for other children. No, no, that's Xiao Bao's place, Xiao Bao is going to the academy. Does Xiao Bao want to study? Yes, Xiao Bao wants to study, he promised while sniffing, for fear that Su Qingyu would give up his position to someone else. Can Xiao Bao sit still? You can sit still. Xiao Bao can stand on his horse for so long. He can sit still. Yes, brother can sit still. How can Xiao Bao not be able to sit still? Mom doesn't believe it at all. Well, Xiao Bao will definitely be able to sit still. Mom, are you still sending Xiao Bao to Reyes-Hu? Xiao Bao doesn't want to leave mom. He looked up at Su Qingyu aggrievedly, holding his arms tightly and not daring to let go. I was afraid that my mother had gone to pack his luggage. Then will you study obediently? Xiao Bao is good, Xiao Bao is studying well. Mom, can you please not let anyone sit in Xiao Bao's seat? Can you please not send Xiao Bao to Reyes-Hu? Su Qingyu comforted her heart and nodded, yes, as long as Xiao Bao studies well, mother will not let anyone sit in Xiao Bao's seat, nor will she send Xiao Bao to Reyes-Hu. Well, little baby, be good. Mom, let's hook up. Su Qingnao knew that this child was clinging to her, which frightened him, and she was afraid that she would be able to live in peace for a while. He also told Dabao and Qingyang Qingxin that as long as he didn't sit down and study well, he would tell his mother and send him to Reyes-Hu. When Xiao Bao got scared, he really sat still and stopped moving in class. It's been sitting there for several years.